Well, thank you. Hopefully you guys can hear me. So before we get started, if everybody who can, they can stand up just for a second. If you can't, don't stress about it. Okay, you can sit back down. We're just trying to get a little bit more activity. No, I'm just joking. So, trying to talk about metabolic health. We always use the term metabolic health all the time. But what is metabolic health? So let's go forward a little bit. Disclaimers really quick. I'm a medical doctor. I'm not your doctor, so take that for what it's worth. It should always cover my butt. I do, as it was said before, live a low carb, if not ketogenic diet, lifestyle, and all that different aspects. I try to incorporate with my patients, but everybody's a little bit different. So we're trying to help you improve your health. So I want to take everybody on a little bit of journey. So with this journey, keep in mind that everybody starts at a different place. And this end point, or the X on the spot, might be different for everybody also. So kind of imagine yourself getting ready to go on this journey. Where you're starting from and where you're trying to get to is totally different. So everybody's journey is different. But we want to focus on where you want to go, not the fears that can occur in your life or that can occur on this journey. Because there's lots of scary things. Oh, that's too hard. Or I don't have the ability to do that. Or I don't know really the right direction to go. We want to focus on where you want to go, not what you're fearing. And part of it is also focusing on your why. And the reason I say that is when things are tough and when they're hard and when it's been brought up multiple times, oh, you can't do that, or that's not safe, or you shouldn't do that. You got to know where you're trying to get to and what are the tools to get us there. So keep that in mind. And part of it is remembering your why. Yes, we might say it once and forget about it. And that's where one benefit is tracking it, either on your apps, put it on your vision boards, write it in a journal. But remind yourself on a regular basis of why you want to go there and what are some of the tools to help get you there. So with metabolic health, I always go back to homeostasis. We use this big fancy term. It's where everything's working more effectively. The hormones are communicating, enzymes are communicating, your body's functioning well, your gut microbiome is working better, everything's working better. And yes, we're humans, and we have a lot of an idea of what's the right way, but all of us are individual. And things can be a little bit different for everybody. So just kind of give you a visual aspect of everything balancing out. Metabolism or metabolic health, kind of a definition. You can have arguments on what the true definition is, but basically a key word there is complex. We always want to make things really simple. The human body is not a simple organism, and it's a system of systems, and we're trying to get these systems to work better together. So it's a complex system of chemical reactions in our body to maintain life and produce energy. Special enzymes that break down food, other certain chemicals so your body can work properly. So think of it this way. I'm trying to give you tools or a survival kit that you can take to help you on this journey. Now, you might go to a sportsman's store or go to a place that sells all this equipment, and you can get overwhelmed with all these different things that you can buy. Some expensive stuff, some cheap stuff, some that works that you know how to use, some of them you don't know how to use. You've got to figure out what you're willing to carry or take to help you. And a lot of times at the very beginning, you don't know what's going to help. And that's why you go to these conferences. That's why you watch YouTube videos. That's why you learn these things. You read books looking for tools and tips and tricks and tools to help you on this journey. And so part of it is where your starting point. We're all totally different. And it drives me nuts when people go, but my friend did this and they lost all this weight, or my friend did this. Well, are you your friend? No. Well, why are you comparing yourself to them? We're all starting at different places. We have different metabolic health issues. We might not have any that we know of right now, but that's a key factor. So some different factors to think about. Maybe in the back of your head, think of what you have or family members have. Blood pressure issues, cholesterol issues, waist circumference, having fat around the organs, which is the more dangerous fats, having blood sugar issues, either high blood sugars or low blood sugars, that can be a problem. Inflammation in your joints, in your gut, in your skin, depression, anxiety, other underlying psychiatric issues. Attention deficit or brain fog are kind of distracted all over the place. Chronic fatigue, I have no energy for that. Nobody can explain why. Sex hormone abnormalities, either at any stage of life, be it men, be it women, be it or older men and younger women, whatever. Eating abnormalities. A lot of times we always think it's under eating or not eating enough. It can be the other extreme also. Overeating. Eating for reasons we don't know why. History of PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome for women. Or infertility, be it women or men. History of diabetes. One thing you don't have control over is the genetic information that your parents gave you the night you were conceived. We can't go, I'm going to go get different aspects of that, or I'm going to change that. You can't. That's who makes who you are. It's a thing we're having to work against or work with, but it's a key aspect that you've got to understand, that we've got to look at. And then how epigenetics, how environmental things affect how these hormones work. Another thing you can't control is age. Yes, this is probably not the best way in this room to celebrate a birthday, but that's the common idea is you have birthday cake on birthday and we celebrate it. It's a big deal, don't get me wrong. Celebration is great. All the different tools we talked about, celebration is great. Making a big deal about it. But it can't make us younger. We're all at a certain age. We've had the experience. Our body's gone through a lot of things. We can't change that. All we can do is start changing other aspects that you can control. And a lot of times, especially in this realm, we always talk about diet. I honestly hate the word diet. Period. Flat out. What is the definition of a diet? What you habitually eat. Period. That could be good, that could be bad. We always make this big aspect about, it's all about diet, it's all about diet, which it is, don't get me wrong. But even looking up this in preparation, one of the definitions of diet is what you're doing to lose weight. Period. It's not about weight, even though my goal is to help patients, I'll say patients because that's my realm, help patients lose weight. I'm actually trying to help them improve their metabolic health. And yes, it's not about losing weight, it's about losing fat or adipose tissue, or in my realm, or at least I use it simply, losing food storage and building more muscle or maintaining muscle. So I hate the word diet, but if we're going to look at it, we want to look at it as fuel. I know obviously you're not going to eat these types of things, but you can't use each of these fuels to do the same thing. You have to use the proper fuel. So we're trying to look at food as the right type of fuel to get your body to function well. And there's multiple people in this room, and yes, we want to change what we're eating, but everybody's slightly different. So that's where the idea of the N of one. Try it for you. If it works, great. If it doesn't work for you, let's keep tweaking. Let's keep adjusting. Let's improve things. Let's try what works and what doesn't for you. Not the person sitting next to you, or your best friend on the cruise, or the person who made you come on the cruise. that make sense? So yes, most of us do believe in the low carb, if not ketogenic idea. Great. The problem is the ratio of those foods or the macronutrients can always be different, like I said. I always go back to very basic. If you're going to eat, prioritize protein. Well, how much is that? Everybody's different. Depends on your muscle ratio, your activity, things like that. But start with, my simple way is start with protein. If you have no desires, like I'm hungry, but I don't want protein, probably not hunger. There's lots of reasons why we try to eat or should eat. But if you're not going to start with protein or the right type of fuel, don't go there. 2, don't fear the healthier fats. And yes, we always talk about the different fats. This is good, this is bad. Everybody's different. We'll talk about that in a minute. But then 3rd, cut back on carbs. Some, again, this is very stereotypical. My experience, women sometimes can get away with a little bit more carbs than men. But that doesn't mean it's everybody has to do that particular regimen. This is an experiment for you to figure out what's going to help you. We talk about oils. They're healthy. They're everybody. No, they're not. Not all oils are the exact same. Now, we want the more the natural. Again, in this room, we talk about olive oil or avocado oil, coconut oil, all good things. We want to avoid the fats that are more man-made or processed. And hate to break it to you, I know you guys know this, there are no vegetables with oil in it. So I know you guys know it, just reinforcing that. But vegetable oil, no, there's no vegetables. And part of this is giving you guys maybe some information so when your family, your friends say, well, what about this? Hopefully these are some tools that you guys might add to your knowledge. They're going, well, what about this? Or, okay, ask them how many vegetables actually have oil in them. So, an idea. Then we also talk about the idea of fasting. Fasting's a great tool, but everybody's different. Think about what's helping you. That's why I always go back to very simply is, if you're not hungry, don't eat. But the clock says nothing. It's a time. If you're not hungry, don't eat. Don't get me wrong. If I'm sitting in my exam room and I'm talking to a patient, and the patient's less than 18 years old, I'm going to recommend they eat 3 to 4 times a day. Why? They're growing. If you get past that point, guess what? Our goal is not to grow. So if you're, again, that's where everybody's different. Where are you on this journey? But part of it is also being mindful of what you eat, when you're eating, but also, don't forget the important stuff, water. And also, especially when you're going to start out with going to a low-carb ketogenic diet, you need salt. Because what happens is your blood sugars are coming down, your insulin levels coming down. Guess what? Your insulin, with that lower insulin, allows your kidneys to let go of salt. Guess what? You guys remember the old osmosis idea? Water follows. We got the water, but if that doesn't fix everything, add the salt. Don't be afraid of those things. We always talk about calories. Avoid them. Don't worry about it. What is a calorie? We always talk about don't have to worry about it. Anybody understand? Any hands know what a calorie actually is?
The ability to raise the temperature of water 1 degree Celsius.
Exactly. Determined by a bomb calorimeter. Any of you bomb calorimeters? We got one up here. Okay. I like history, so I'm going to go back a little bit. This is Wilbur Atwater. In 1896, was a chemist looking at fertilizer and stuff like that and saw how these different plants grew with the different components in it. So he decided to go dig in a little bit more. He came up with this calculation of how much energy is being released from food in a bomb calorimeter. Later became a calorie, and actually when we talk foods, we're talking kilocalories, so we're talking the thousands of that. But I always go back to either multiple different people have different belief systems, either God created or natural created. I always go back to, how many receptors does your body have for a man-made unit of energy? Exactly. So don't worry about it. I know you guys know this, but just reinforce it. And unfortunately, a lot of times when you're talking calories, oh, you got to eat less. So like was just brought up before, I'm trying to eat less and less calories, can trigger eating abnormalities. And unfortunately, we always talk about on the lower end, oh, I don't eat, or I'm trying to eat less calories. Eating, bump up against that, eating less of that can trigger more hunger. Hunger makes it harder to try to eat less. And the goal is not always just about eating less, but we also need to be mindful about, why are we eating? What am I eating? What's the situation I'm eating? And being mindful of it. So just different aspects to think about. Then we talk about addiction. I know we talked about it yesterday. And some people always say food addiction. Most of us have a hard time just overeating on steak, salmon, shrimp, even going to carbs, green leafy vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower. It's sugar addiction. And that sugar addiction will bump up your insulin. And one of the aspects, this talks about the dopamine aspect from sugar, but another aspect with an elevated insulin, it can actually block the receptor of a hormone called leptin. Therefore, your brain doesn't get the signal to say you're full. Therefore, you're going, but I'm doing what mom taught me to, eating till I'm full. And they don't get the signal to be full. So it's not food addiction. It's the whole sugar aspect and how your body's communicating through different hormones. But going back to the whole tracking, part of it is also being mindful about how you feel after you eat that food. We talked about all the holidays and I'm eating because of this. How did I feel after I ate that? I got real, just experiences I've had. Oh, I got tired or fatigued, or I wanted to go take a nap. Maybe what I ate wasn't a good response for me. Or I felt better, or it's just wrecking my gut. I feel bloated. So tracking some of this so you have a learning what works for you and what doesn't. Again, like I said, that could be writing it down. And actually studies have shown that writing it down is probably better than putting it on our phones, because the whole process of writing it ingrains it more in our brain. But work with whatever works for you. Just things to think about. Lifestyle. The things that we always talk about lifestyle changes. These are things that you can do outside of the dietary changes that you can do to help control or look at for you. Not a doctor prescribing something or doing a procedure or something more aggressive like that. We always talk about activity, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I always say sleep's the most important part. Focus on getting better quality sleep. It's, yes, quality and quantity. But we want to do these things, and people go, well, I just go to bed late, but I have to set time to get up. Well, no matter how fast you sleep, you're not going to get enough sleep. So we're focusing on getting at least 7 hours. Yes, some people need more. Some people can survive on less. And I'll show you a graph in a minute. But we want to shoot for at least 7 hours. Quality, feeling rested when you get up. Not just always quantity. But little tips. Try to have a set go to bed time. With most of us, especially if you're still working, have a time you have to get up. Like I said, no matter if you go to bed later, you're not going to sleep more. Getting off the computer screens, our phones, our computers. And if you have to be on it, use blue blocking glasses to help lower that absorption of the blue lights. Avoiding foods several hours before till everything kind of calmed down. Caffeine, but any stimulant, caffeine, alcohol, yes, it can be a stimulant, nicotine. We want to try to avoid it for about at least 4 hours. Again, these are all general recommendations. Everybody's different. We're just trying to get better quality sleep. Meditation. That can be earlier in the day, middle of the day. and even right before you go to bed. Part of it is we're trying to calm things down and relax. Sometimes having kids at the house or whatever, or teenagers coming and going, I have white noise, so I don't have to hear them coming up and down the stairs. If you have that type of environment, try to have white noise or brown noise. There's a variety of different types of noises, but just so you're not hearing things on a regular basis. Everybody else knows about the importance of sunlight, but trying to get earlier in the day to help with your wake cycles, to get up, get out. You don't have to be out there for a long period of time. Yes, I should avoid sun a lot with my pale skin and red hair, but I still need sun. We all need sun. But try to get it earlier in the day, but be mindful about long exposure times with that. Exercise or activity is great, but try to do it earlier in the day, because if you do it too late in the day, could affect your sleep. Now, don't get me wrong. At one time, I would, what did I do? How come this one away? I have to look over there now. Oh, there we go. We got it working now. There we go. This is the study I talked about, and it's really hard to tell. I totally understand. But if it goes through time, go looking at back in the 1940s up to the mid-the 2000s, the dotted line going down is the number of hours of sleep. We were a little about 8.5, maybe closer to 9, and over time it has gradually gone down in that same. I'm not saying it's the only thing that caused it, but it plays a role with it, is obesity has started to climb with it. So again, if weight is an issue, trying to get adequate sleep is definitely a key tool to help you. And if getting your brain to shut down, even with trying to meditation, all these things, then there are some supplements. I'm not saying this is all inclusive, just different things. Melatonin, magnesium, valerian root, 5-HT, and L-tryptophan have all shown to help with some relaxation. Because part of it is, unfortunately in our world, is run, try to go sleep. The human body actually needs some time, and everybody's different. Now, I can go and fall asleep. My wife, on the other hand, will go, crawl in bed. It's like, now I have to worry about everything, and it takes her a while to get to bed. So look at what works for you and work with that. And track it. What works for you? What are some tools? What's reminders that help be aware of that? We talked about stress management. Great things. But I always look at stress from a little different perspective. I like the definition, or two different ways of looking at it. There is eustress and distress. Eustress. I'm excited to go on the cruise. I get to talk to a bunch of people. I have more distress, but I'm excited about sharing some knowledge. I'm excited about some changes I'm doing. I'm excited about a project I'm working on. I'm excited about going on this trip. You might get wound up because of that. That's not a bad thing. And use it, enjoy it, help you use all these ideas. But then we have distress. Work, my boss is driving me nuts. My coworkers are driving me nuts. Things you don't have control over. First of all, figure out, is it more of a eustress or a distress? If it's a distress, can we get rid of it? Or what can we do not to worry about it? If it's out of your control, why are we worrying about it? If it's a eustress, go with it. Don't worry about it. But different ways of helping you kind of relax a little bit. Exercise. But it could be doing hobbies. Meditation, like we talked about. Yoga. Getting out in nature. Time management. Music. And I'm not saying these are all inclusive, but it gives you a variety of different ways of thinking, because we're all different. We talk about the importance of willpower. You just got to have more willpower. Willpower, having the desire to change, is one thing. But trying to make the environment that you're in easier for you to accomplish it definitely can help. So if you're trying to make some dietary changes and you work in an office where somebody brings in donuts and treats on a regular basis, It's really hard to walk past the break room and, ooh, those Krispy Kreme donuts smell really good. I'm going to go have some. It's really hard to go, I'm going to have more willpower. I'll have more willpower. And no, changing your environment definitely can help. One thought process about willpower is the more you use it, it wears out. So by the end of the day, you've worked really hard, you've done all these things. Now your battery's kind of gone, my willpower's gone, I'm just going to, but I did really good most of the day. What can we do to change that? To build it up and not have to use those situations as often. The reason I brought up this screen is I want you to think about, we're all different, like I said. Maybe when we're done here at lunch, or maybe tonight, or when you're sitting on the deck just watching things go along, is sit back and think about the things that you've heard about from yesterday, today, even to, let's see, whatever day it is in the future from this conference. What are some good ideas? What meant something to you? What seemed to click with you so you can work on it? You might be sitting next to your spouse or your friend and they're writing down the same thing and they heard something totally different than you. Great. Don't worry about them. Worry about you. And so we can have these tools to help you on this journey. Again, I always go back to this picture, we're trying to create and give you the tools to help us along. And again, tracking it, writing it down. Just a little cartoon, most doctors go, you need to exercise, you need to exercise, you need to exercise or you're going to be dead. Yes, exercise is great. I want you to. But sometimes we feel like we have to go, I can't do my 30 minutes a day and I can't do it 5 days a week. Can we just start simple? Can we start very simple? Like what's brought up, can I improve by 1%? That's all we have to do. Can I improve one thing by 1%? And exercise is great. Can I go, maybe going up and down stairs is hard for you, but maybe I go up a flight of stairs. Great. I like the idea of not using the elevator, but we're all in different places. Can I take the stairs up? Or if I'm going down, can I go down 2 flights of stairs before I get on the elevator? So different aspects to try. Unfortunately, a lot of times when we talk exercise, we think we have to go overboard. It's like if it's all in or nothing. For him, that's probably easy. For me, that'd be hard. We're all different. So think of it that way. This might be hard for you. We're trying to push you just a little bit. That 1%. Just different benefits of exercise, and it's all important. But I always go back to, with my patients, of starting with what you like to do. If you like to do it, you're more willing to do it. Oh, I like to go dancing, or I like to go running. Great, but it's gonna rain. Great, I'll put on my jacket, I'll go. But if it's something you don't like to do, you're going to find every excuse in the book not to go. Oh, my outfit doesn't work. Or I forgot my water bottle. Oh, my headphones won't connect with my phone, so I can't exercise. So start with what you like to do and push yourself just a little bit. And yes, it might be as simple as walking into McDonald's versus going through the drive-thru. Just very simple. Hopefully we're not going to McDonald's, but the idea, we're starting simple. Again, we talked about thermo. Sometimes great idea. Would it be the first thing I start with? No. Has it been beneficial? Yes. And studies have shown it actually can help take your beige fat. So before we go in there, we've heard the term white fat, beige fat, and brown fat. What's the difference outside the name? The mitochondria, exactly. White has a very few. It has some, or it would be dead. It has very few mitochondria, or power plants. Beige, moderate amount. Brown, a lot more. So by doing these extreme things, cold therapy, if that's extreme to you, can help convert white to beige, beige to brown. So it's helping improve, and when you have more mitochondria, we're using more energy. Yes, we're using more calories. We're not focused on calories, but we're using more energy, and we use the unit of calories as an idea. So again, like I said, sit down, look at your ideas, so we can now figure out what to do for you. Because you can have a whole list of ideas. Now, how do we incorporate it? I came across this in my reading of different habits, and coming from a book called Tiny Habits, done by a PhD, P.H. Fogg, but he looks at it from a different way. So we got B as the behavior that we're trying to incorporate. We need to look at our motivation, our ability, and then triggers, or basically the ability to do it. Well, let's look at the motivation. Yes, we all have the motivation. Maybe. Is it a high motivation? It's probably easier to do. If it's a low motivation, everybody keeps telling me I'm supposed to do it. My doctor tells me I'm supposed to do it. I don't want to do it. That's kind of a low motivation. It could be beneficial, don't get me wrong, but for you, there's no motivation. Now, the ability. Is it hard to do? You're going, yes, I totally understand the importance, but that is really hard for me to do, versus easier to do. So that's where going back to that list of ideas is this a high motivation? High motivation or a low motivation? Now I'm going to compare that to my ability. Is that hard for me to do or easy to do? And then where they cross. A high motivation and easy to do is more likely to occur, versus a low motivation and hard to do is like, yeah, it's not going to happen. Though it's a great idea, everybody does it, but for me, not a good place to start. Now, over time, it might become easier, or the motivation might improve, and that might change over time and making it easier or more likely to succeed for you, but everybody's different. Then looking at the habit loop, trying to incorporate. We always talk, have habits. Habits, we're all creatures of habit. We have a cue. We have a craving. If we don't like the idea, we're not going to do it. But that cue triggers something we like to do. We also like the reward, and we give it into our routine. So if we're trying to create a habit, we're trying to find a cue and something that's easy to do that you're rewarded. Doesn't have to be food, but rewarded by it. But the exact opposite, if we're trying to break a habit, again, that's part of what I used to eat this, my lack of exercise or my sleep. What's my cue? Can I create a routine or a craving, something that I want to do? What is my routine to make it? So we're now making it easier to do. But one other aspect would be anchor it to something you're already doing. It might be meditation. Everybody talks about meditation. Maybe you get up in the morning and you struggle to go make coffee in the morning. It takes 5 minutes to brew or whatever. I don't drink coffee, but that idea, maybe that 5 minutes while you're waiting everything to warm up and do it, that's your meditation time. I'm relaxing. I'm taking my deep breathing. I'm trying to get everything to calm down. It might be I'm brushing my teeth at night. I brush my teeth. When I put my toothbrush down is my time to start meditating or relaxing. Anchor it to something you already do, because you're already doing that. Like it or not, and if it's something you don't like, let's try to change that. But put it to something you don't have to think about. And again, different tools to help you. And again, like I said, tracking it. Now, we've had multiple discussions about the gut microbiome, the importance of the gut. Lots of different things that we can do to improve it. We talked about the environment, but probiotics, think of probiotics as almost like seeds that you're putting out. Prebiotics is almost the fertilizer to help those bacteria to grow. So different ways of looking at it. Again, just a picture giving us an idea of some of the beneficial bacteria, the probiotic and prebiotic environment. Again, keeping in mind that connective tissue, some of the meats that you eat can work as more of a fiber to feed it. That's where also Medium chain triglycerides and short chain triglycerides can help in some of these environments also. Let's delve into hormones. I know we're almost done with time, and we might not get through all my slides. Like when I told my wife how many slides I had, she goes, "You're in trouble." But hormones. We always talk about hormones, and unfortunately, a lot of doctors don't always delve into hormones. I know we do the basics. Oh, your thyroid is just totally fine. Hormones are basically a communication system in our body released from one cell to go tell another cell what to do. Multiple different hormones. We know there's over 30 different hormones that play a role. Again, some of the key ones, your insulin, obviously your A1C, not a hormone, but we want to look at the blood work of where we're at. But lab results, we go, the doctor goes, you're totally normal. Well, my first question is, how do we determine the normal ranges? We check the masses. The young, the old. The male, the female. The sick, the unsick. We come up the bell curve. See, you're normal for which of those groups? So if you don't feel like it's normal for you, it might not be. Especially like thyroid. Most doctors will just do the TSH. It's not just the TSH, it's the T3, the T4, the reverse T3. Just because it's in the normal range. Men and testosterone, at least in our lab, normal can go from 296 up to 916. They go, you're 300. For a 70-year-old, maybe an 80-year-old, that's normal. But if you're younger than that, it's not normal. So keep that in mind. When doctor says it's normal, for who? Some just different signaling systems, how different systems produce it. Just to give you an idea of the very simple, complex aspect of it, how the communication of all these different hormones. We always talk about insulin, some of the things that insulin does, kind of a simple view, how insulin opens up the cell to get the glucose in, can definitely help. We talked about CGMs, saw some CGMs here. Very beneficial, gives you some more information, but it doesn't give us all the information. It's a tool. But it doesn't tell us how much insulin is needed to open up the cells to get the sugar in. So if your blood sugars are doing good, great if you're seeing success. But if you're not, we need to dig deeper. Other tools just to check it. And this one other tool that we don't always talk about, tracking. What's working for you and what's not. Again, in my realm, I always talk about weight, but a lot of times when we're talking about your metabolic health, it might not always be the weight. It could be how the hormones are functioning. Could be you're lowering your A1C. If we've got to fix that before weight can occur. So if your A1C is coming from a higher range down to a lower range, we're fixing things. If your insulin level's coming down, that's improvement. If you're not having as much inflamed liver functions, improvement. Kidney functions, cholesterol ratio, not just cholesterol numbers, ratios. Improving your sex hormone ratios, helping with infertility type issues, mental health issues, confidence. So again, lots of different things play a role. It's kind of a picture of people with the same BMI. One of them, the one that has a little bit less of the white around it, has more muscle, less visceral fat, versus the other person has more subcutaneous, which is not always bad, don't get me wrong, it's a better place for your body to store food storage, but having more of the whiteness around the organs or the visceral fat is a dangerous thing. That's what we're trying to get rid of. It's not always just a number on the scale. It's we're trying to lose fat or lose the, as I said, food storage. And not always just getting on any scale. Again, it's just an image of the bioimpedance scale that I have at my office. Multiple different ones. I'm not saying this is the best. A lot of different ways of looking at it. But we want to look at your muscle mass, your hydration, and the adipose tissue. Also looking at how your metabolic rate's doing. You might have a faster metabolic rate versus a slower metabolic rate, just in more tools that can help us improve that. Just going to fly through a couple of these as we wrap up. Different tools, kind of thinking about eating only when you're hungry, snacking. Again, snacking can be a good tool if you're hungry, but don't look at it as snacking as it's actually a meal. So if you're having to snack on a regular basis, I always look at it, you're not eating enough with their last meal. Maybe you need to drink more water, add some salt, which might help decrease your cravings. But this is not judgment. We're all on this journey differently to try to help improve things. Now, if everything we've done up to this point doesn't help you, then looking at supplements. Supplements are a big realm, and everyone goes, oh, you need to try this, you need to try this. They have some benefit. But not if you're not doing those other things. If you're sleeping like crap, you're eating like crap, you're not being active, you're not dealing with your stress, then supplements aren't really going to help much. If you're doing that but not seeing the benefit, can definitely help. A couple ways of looking at the idea of medications or supplements. Again, things that you guys understand: meat, eggs, dairy, seafood. But another way of looking at the idea of meds is meditation. So best picture right from just abdominal breathing. A lot of times we think, oh, I have to sit in certain positions and do this. No, it's just more relaxing, taking deep breaths. The exercise. What we eat, or the diet, again, I look at it as fuel. Getting your adequate sleep. Recharging, and your relationships. We've talked about that. Having the support around us to help us on this journey. Somebody who's willing to help you. They might not have to do it themselves, but be willing to help you and be that support system to help you understand, and then turn to supplements. But keeping in mind that this is a healing process. From the weight perspective, again, I always go back to that. So it's not always about weight, but I always go back to that. I always ask patients, how long did it take you to gain the weight? I get twice as much time to lose the weight. Why? Because simply, if you fell and broke your leg, which we don't want, don't get me wrong, but if you fell and broke your leg, how quick is it? How long does it take you to heal from that? So it takes a while, and unfortunately, the more experienced we are, the slower the process. So give yourself, going back to that age part, is it's going to take some time. We're on this journey to help each other and give each other help along that way. But it's different supplements, if you're looking at that could definitely be beneficial, is magnesium, chromium, and again, just different ideas. And then, yes, being a doctor, there's always the pharmaceutical companies, or pharmaceutical medications that we can use. Some are beneficial, not as good. We're not going to delve into those. And we can answer questions about those later. Different ways that have been FDA approved, again, from weight. But getting to this, trying to help with your competence will help you with your confidence. When you have more confidence, it gives you more willing to work on the competence and help with the knowledge. What's helping? What's not helping? What can we do? We also want to push you out of your comfort zone. That's how you grow. There's multiple different layers according to this, but we want to get into the growth aspect. We want to help you grow and learn and improve your health. But one aspect we don't always talk about, I know we're almost done, where are you getting the information from? Who's looking out for you? Who has been through it? Not that they have to go through it to do it, but are they trying to sell you something? Are they trying to promote something? Or are they trying to help you figure out what's going to help you? And again, just going to the realm of obesity. At one time when I started this, it looks like, oh, that's far off. 2030 is not that far off, and it's growing. So I'll get out of this. My call to action to you is look at where you are. Look at different options. Try to figure out what might help you. Maybe look at it in comparison to your motivation, your ability to help you improve your metabolic health before you turn to somebody else for those answers. It's a healing process, trying to improve things. But again, keep in mind at the very beginning when you're learning things and you're trying to develop new skills, things are fragile. It takes some time to strengthen and grow and improve. Just information. So, I'll